In fact, he is the most powerful man in the universe. Wang Ling is a high school student and has a huge supply of magical energy, which he tries to hide from others. Even as a child, his strength was so great that he fought fearlessly and defeated a giant frog monster. However, this feat went unnoticed and the glory went to another person. When he was born, he crawled out of his mother's womb and his father fainted when he saw that his newborn son had a penis larger than his. Even then, his parents realized that he had decided to make him the strongest warrior. But young Wang realized that for his mental health it was best to remain in the shadows and always hid his abilities, especially from his parents. On the first day of high school, Wang Ling enters the campus and sees a statue of Zhu Yi, who became famous for saving Huzhu. When he goes inside to high school, students noticing his low level of strength, which shows a person's mastery in the field of spiritual abilities, decide to mock him and demand money. But their mockery, suddenly interrupted by a golden ray of fire from the sky, a girl descends and declares that it is impossible to bully a newcomer with a low level of strength. This is none other than Sun Ran, the daughter of the legendary group Flower Veil. Everyone admires her and the high school students, scared of her reputation, quickly leave, saying that boys should not fight with girls. She approaches Ven and assures him that she will protect him no matter what, and they shake hands. But to everyone's surprise, he hands her the $10 that the bullies demanded from him, which left everyone confused, including Sunny Girl, because she thought that her grade for the evening was higher than this. Later, the Zhu will appear in the form of a hologram and ask the students to take a spiritual power test to determine their place in the class, and students with excellent grades will be enrolled in the elite class, while the rest will be in a regular class. When the test begins, the first student Xuan finds himself in a dark room with water on the floor, when suddenly a giant frog appears and the water begins to glow. The students watch what is happening on a large screen outside. The girl recognizes the son in the frog Tiu that attacked the city many years ago and was defeated by Master Yuo. But after he found out that girls kiss frogs to find the prince, he apparently decided to return to Okoet. The simpleton, the announcer, reveals that the real giant frog sealed under the campus is just the embodiment of her spiritual power. The students are asked to call on their own spiritual power and hit the frog on the head. However, many students do not even manage to touch the barrier. Then a one named appears on the stage. Shan Chao confidently hits the barrier of the frog with his hand, which glows with fire, and is chosen to play the elite class along with Hao, who has an impressive strength value of 886. Then the Sun Girl joins the competition, hitting the frog with the strength of 2019, and the crown proclaims her as a goddess. When it is Wang's turn, he attracts the attention of the frog, who senses his strength and remembers their meeting many years ago. The frog reflects that if he attacks, then the soul will be in danger. Wang, to maintain his average level of attenuation, pretends to fight with minimal effort, but at the same time exerting maximum effort. Just as he is about to strike, the display screen goes out of order, showing an upside-down image of a frog. To everyone's surprise, the value of Van's power is displayed on the screen as 99,999. The crowd is stunned, and the Sun Girl realizes that this time there was no protective membrane around the giant frog. He wonders why the frog reacted like that, though he didn't actually hit her, and realizes that she was pretending to be dead. He secures his place in the elite class, and the class calms down as Pan, the instructor, begins the first summoning lesson. Pan explains that the space around them is filled with spiritual entities, and they must use their spiritual power to create a passage in the space and summon a spiritual being. She further explains that the size and strength of the spiritual being being summoned depends on its power level. The students make their attempts at summoning with this. Chen summons a stick, which causes laughter from the others. Guess he wanted to develop his skills calling. Meanwhile, the girls of the sun successfully call the dog Skeleton with cute pink bow on the tail and playfully call her a stray dog. Watching her creation, she can't help but wonder how much spiritual power is actually required to summon a real spirit beast. When it is Van's turn to summon a monster, there is an explosion in the class, and he suddenly summons a giant frog made of dough, which causes panic among the students. The teacher quickly intervenes by turning the stray dog Sambro into a giant frog. The result is a strange greenish dog. The students are delighted with the new creation and affectionately call it. The next day comes as a frog, and when he goes to school, memories from his childhood come flooding back to him, reminding him of why he always tried to be inconspicuous. He remembers the unusual events that seem to be happening around him, and remembers how he discovered that his touch could be dangerous when he broke the collectible sword that his parents lovingly bought for him, but he knew that in reality his mother bought a fake sword so that his father would not waste half of his hard-earned money. Unusual occurrences continued when he got older, and one day on his birthday he accidentally set the whole house on fire trying to blow out the candles on the cake. Forget nursery rhymes. This guy even as a child smashed swords and set houses on fire. However, when his parents saw him defeat a level 5 giant frog at the age of 6, they decided that we should lead a normal, happy life. They gave him a protective amulet, which he wore around his neck, and a golden pill, which had to be taken every day to suppress his power. Despite to these measures, he remained strong, and his father promised to create a new amulet that will better hide his abilities. Until then, Juan decided to go to school and behave as inconspicuously as possible so as not to stand out among the other students. Arriving at school, he finds Chen and Sun Ron, who are fiercely arguing for the post of class prefect. Juan soon arrives and sees that Chen and Sun Ron are fiercely competing for the post of class prefect. Sun Ron distributes his father's money to bribe the voters and offer them free lunches from the cafeteria. Chen Bu's friend condemns her for this, but Sun Ron thinks that this is a great opportunity to show off her talents and charms. No one except Juan takes free lunches because he can't resist the crispy noodles. He takes free lunches and promises to vote for her, and the rest of the sheep will follow him. She manages to gain the trust of Chen and Guo, but this is only the beginning of her chapters. TK uses her special ability called the Art of Seduction, which makes everyone be in duty to her and not to contradict her. Everyone except Vine is marked with a forbidden jutsu, but he left immediately as soon as he received his noodles and gave her bodyguard a golden tablet for Sun Ron as payment. Later in the class, the fat teacher can notices the mark on all the students and begins a lecture on the ancient art of spiritual seduction. He says that it works when someone accepts a gift from a spellcaster who uses hand seals and spells to make everyone become his fans. Van also realized that the teacher targeted Sun Ron, but fortunately he repaid her in kind with the help of the golden pill, so now he is safe. He keeps looking at her, and Sun Ron thinks that he is interested in her, wants to know if he liked the noodles she prepared, but she misunderstands him and thinks that he is asking her to eat the golden pill that he gave her. Sun Ron agrees, thinking that she can get spiritual power from this pill, but it turns out that this is a medicine to restore spiritual power. Sun Ron loses his spiritual power and suddenly everyone is freed from her. Char Kong calls her to try to cast the spell, but she is still dizzy and falls. When she gets up, luckily Wang saves her, and then the teacher asks him to cast a spell, which works very effectively on Sun Ron. After that, the election for the post of class president is fair, and the rank wins. The next day, on the way to the pill-making class, Wang meets Sun Ron, who is walking along the red carpet with full VIP treatment. He notices the magic sign on her head and realizes that he accidentally cast a seduction spell on her. He approaches her and gently touches her hair before erasing the mark to free her from the enchantment. However, Bro has so much power that even this made Sun Ron fall in love with him even more. After this, their teacher Pan explains the complex process of creating a vitality pill using a clay pot and a furnace. After she finishes explaining, the students quietly evaluate each other's furnaces to see who can handle the task better. The rank brought a copper boiler that belonged to his great-grandfather, and Sun Ron an industrial furnace from his father's own factory brought a microwave from the village to the most modern portable oven that is on the market. Chen loads the boiler with coal and lights it, and then runs away, and Pen tells everyone that they need to set the alarm clock for 7 o'clock. After they put the boiler in the oven, everyone leaves the class, but Froggy sneaks inside because he feels the energy coming from the stove and wants to have a snack. Fortunately, Van foresaw Froggy's action and returned to class on time. Froggy still swallows the stove and runs away from Juan, but he is caught and forced to spit out. Van decides to wash the stove, but Gum misunderstands the situation when he sees him coming out of the toilet with the stove. Overcome with confusion and suspicion, Gu approaches him and points a water pistol at him. Van explains the truth, but Guo does not believe him and pulls the trigger, releasing the poison from the gun. Van dodges, but the Chin, who was standing right behind him, was so exhausted that he could not dodge the poison. The Chin falls and Tan is in a panic because Chin is in danger because of the poison. Van is going to cure him, but Pen stops him, Not understanding what he is doing, they take Chen to class and Pen tells Ven that he will forget about stealing the stove if Ven helps him make pills to save Kun's life. Guo decides to play along and helps Ven improve the pill, but since Fatty panics that they may not be able to make it in time, Froggy tries to eat the stove again, and quickly reacts and uses a spell to force Froggy releases spiritual energy before being thrown aside, and is surprised that the heating process of the furnace seems to have accelerated, and they conduct several experiments using Froggy's tower before he admits that he can control the passage of time with his spiritual power using his abilities, and speed up the process of making the pill. They give the pill to Zheng to make him well, but then they hear that the teacher's other students are returning to the class. Guo leaves to detain them, but he is of little use and bursts into the class. To his surprise, Pien takes out a golden pill from the furnace and gives him the highest score. Then she goes to Ven and sees that his pill is broken and and scolds him for his poor work. Guo is touched because he thinks that En gave him his golden pill and swears eternal loyalty to him. He doesn't even suspect that Ven didn't do this, and he never got a pill from the oven, so it was prepared along with the antidote, and the microwave. Vienna clearly did not cope with the task. While all this is happening, Chen is sleeping peacefully in where he threw him, and after classes they take him out. They even manage to fix his broken boiler with the help of Frogga's ability to control time. Chen burst into tears when he hugged and thanked Wan. The next day, Suran approaches Wan during a break and invites him on a date, which leaves him confused. At that moment he notices two killers, masked rabbits, on the next roof. One of them has a sniper rifle. Wan quickly uses his abilities to deflect the bullet and save Suran. Not about the danger, she continues to persuade Wan to go on a date with her. But then Kong comes into the class and asks Wan to go out with him. He takes the opportunity to escape from this girl, but she mistakes his silence for consent and follows him. The story about their budding romance becomes the main topic in the school, and even the killers pay attention to it. Meanwhile, Khan introduces Wan to the chief director of the school league, Master Jui, and leaves them alone to discuss something. Ru immediately recognizes him as the boy who defeated the giant frog and falls on his knees in front of him to express his respect. He asks Wan to take him as a student, but Wan doesn't even want to think about it and uses his special skill, the ability to forget, to erase Ru's memory of this event. The next day, Wan dreams of a nightmare in which Surong forces him to go on a date with her, but when he wakes up and looks out the window, he realizes that his nightmare is about to become a reality. In fear, he quickly twitched with Senrong, and they insist that he live his life to the fullest. They proudly show him the expensive diet pills that Surong gave them, and actually sell his son to a young rich woman. He reluctantly gets into Saren's car and secretly hopes that those two killers will appear again. She tells him that they are going to the park entertainment called Heavenly Paradise, which belongs to her family and was built by her grandfather especially for her. In the park, they approach a huge statue that is said to predict the future relationship between those who put their hand in her mouth. Senrong legend convinces Van to try, but as soon as they approach the statue, he notices two assassins who are chasing them. One of them quickly pulls out a gun and shoots, but Van catches the bullet in his mouth and spits it back, causing him to fly to the side. Senrong misunderstands his reaction and thinks that he is smiling at her, so he erases her memories and memories of the guide. Wang and Senrong continue their date, enjoying the rides and games. They even make sure that they are safe and stops any further attempts by the killers. He also uses his forgetting trick to erase these events from their memory. Sunset. Senrong asks him if he wants to ride on the Ferris wheel and watch the fireworks. Wei agrees, thinking that there he can rest a little, but he is wrong because the killers are following them. While they are enjoying the beautiful spectacle, they are suddenly attacked by killers and take them at gunpoint. Senrong suspects that the killers are from an underground organization called the Shadow Faction and stands between them and Wango to protect him. Seeing this, Wang becomes furious and turns off the weapons and phones of the killers with his gaze. Then he throws them out of the Ferris wheel without even touching them, and hits them with a powerful fire spell, and they disappear among the fireworks in the sky. Wan asks Song-ran to keep what happened a secret, and she promises him this for the first time in his life. Wang relies on the promise to keep the secret and not erasing his memory, and returns to admiring the fireworks with Senrong. The next day at school, Guo Yiqing eagerly asks Wang about his day with Senrong. Senrong arrives in his limousine, Accompanied by vigilant bodyguards, San joins the conversation. Her bodyguards form a protective circle around them. Alkan talks about the ongoing threat from assassins from the Shadow faction who tried to attack her yesterday and therefore security measures have been increased. San Rong claims that she did not see any assassins, and then Ru appears and says that he dealt with them before they could do anything yesterday. When San Rong returned home, Wang used his forgetting trick on Ru to make him remember himself as a hero who stopped. Then Ru tells everyone that an order was issued for San Rong to kill from the wall and strong killers will soon come for her. He explains that enhanced security measures have been taken to protect Sun Junadish. Wang orders everyone to gather in his office, which is equipped with a powerful protective field. In addition, he mentions that the territory will be patrolled by special forces soldiers with magical flying swords to prevent attacks from snipers or from the air. That the killers bypass all security measures and the first of them sneaks into the school building through an underground tunnel. This is the third killer from the Hammer team. He uses a tow hammer to knock out the usual ones guards stationed throughout the school. Juan Khan notices him when he breaks the security camera with his tow hammer. They immediately change the strategy and assure the students that the killers will not harm them, that they do not pay attention to them. They are too busy watching TikTok and discussing yesterday's date between Wang and Sun. Junadish poison gas and heads to Ru's office, but Khan takes him by surprise. The students watch the battle on the screen in the office. Vank meanwhile orders himself noodles and watches the fight between the second killer. Yi can successfully avoids the killer's traps and the servant breaks his spiked hammers, and the killer tries to escape using poisonous gas can. Simply opens the door and knocks him out. He immediately apologizes and goes to pick up his order, and Ju calms down the worried Sunzon by saying that he will be fine on the way to the order count to be sick. And his mother meets friends who brought flowers and gifts. Wang's mother politely says that this is not necessary and goes downstairs to prepare snacks. Gong Wang still pretends to be sick and introduces his pet bird, which is called Bird 2, which sits on the roof of Wang's room and constantly teases him. Everyone laughs except Wang, who silently curses Ugly Bird. Suddenly San Rong remembers that they forgot about the frog, but he enters the room with Wang's mother, who immediately approaches Wang and starts licking his face. She thanks everyone for taking care of her son at school, and San Rong sees this as an opportunity to improve relations with her future mother-in-law. She gives Mrs. Wang several elixirs and tablets to improve health. She also gives an injection with chicken blood for Mrs. S complete recovery. Wang is impressed by these gifts and leaves, telling his son to treat his friends well, especially to San Rong. San Rong drives away the frog and sits next to Wango. She asks how he is feeling. She takes out an injection with chicken blood and says that it works wonders for the recovery of Wang so that he can test his spiritual strength. But San Rong gets angry and says that testing spiritual strength will require a lot of energy, and Wang is not obligated to do this if he is not feeling well. To avoid San Rong with her chicken blood tonic, Wang runs to Chong and takes the bracelet from him, declaring that he is recovered and can test his spiritual strength. After this, rank explains that he needs to concentrate all the spiritual force into the sphere so that the bracelet can measure the strength. Ken's strength indicator is about 600, and Ghoul notices that this is not much different from the results of the entrance test. He explains that this is an indicator of strength outside the body, which is achieved by concentrating spiritual power and visualizing it outwardly. It requires hard training and means the ability to manifest spiritual strength in any form. What makes a person a true cultivator? He then takes his bracelet and shows that his indicator of spiritual strength is only 176, and he becomes ashamed. He tries to jump out of Wang's window in embarrassment, but Chen saves him. San Rong suggests skipping the test so as not to damage the bracelet. However, Guan Chen note that she only scored 2.19 on the entrance test, so her sphere shouldn't be large enough to cause any damage. San Rong reluctantly agrees and takes the test, and to everyone's surprise, her spiritual power almost fills the entire room and she scores 40 out of n possible points. This puts her in second place on the list of children of the best cultivators in China, second only to the Dan Xian from School 59. Now it is Wang's turn to take the test. When he puts on the bracelet, he decides to hide his spiritual power in order to get a low score first. He creates a small bowl thinking that this will be enough, but even he turns out to be too strong and everyone in the room has to literally fight not to fall. Van quickly redirects his spiritual power into outer space, creating a giant ball of spiritual power which is larger than the earth itself. Everyone is surprised. Where did his spiritual sphere go? And he gets a 0 point. This means that his strength was more than the system could measure, and he ranks first among all the cultivators. His friends are surprised. How can he get a 0 point? Ivan suggests that this may be a system error. Everyone leaves the house. Ivan hears how Go says that he hacked the school system to change his result. It occurs to him, brilliant idea, and he calls Go at night to help him hack the system and change his result to 175. Go agrees. Pomo begins to hack the system using a complex spell to guess the password. Surprisingly, the password turns out to be only 8 stars. He notices that Tenzien is in second place and changes it to the name Bird because they had a common history at the cultivator school. But when Gu interferes with the system, an alarm goes off and he quickly exits the program before he can change the rating. They don't suspect Van that at this moment Teng and his friend from the 59th faction are also hacking the system, and they don't like that Gu caused the alarm. Ten is furious when he sees that his name has been changed and wants to teach the students from the 60th faction school a lesson because he suspects them of this. The next day Van returns to school and has lunch with his friend when their attention is attracted by a news program on TV. The news showed a training session of students from the 59th faction who were preparing for the national fencing competition. The reporter emphasizes that the students' abilities correspond to professional standards and especially highlights the performance of that Nc, who easily dodges hundreds of hits with the ball. The reporter interviews Ten and asks him about his preparation for the competition with rivals from the 60s. And he wishes for the 60th for Sun Ron and says that he is looking forward to meeting her, but when he is asked about Wang, who took first place, he gets annoyed and sarcastically wishes Wang good luck before abruptly end the interview. Later that night, Van and his friends are sitting at home relaxing after a long day. Suddenly, they receive an unexpected invitation to a social group from Kong, where he reveals that all 5 of them are participants in the upcoming national ball fencing competition. To their horror, they discover that Frogs, their faithful dog companion, was included in the 5th. Turns out Frogs passed the spiritual strength test and scored an impressive will surpass Kong and Jugestation to win the tournament. Anyone at a cost. MSP was initially against this, but Ju convinced her since there was already a precedent for spirit beasts participating in competitions. Ken shares the good news with his father, who is immensely proud of him and gives him a special spirit sword that was forged at his birth. Then Gu willingly shares details about his own treasured sword, which he has owned for almost 8 years. The blade was forged using the teeth of a formidable spiritual beast, but he has not yet been able to reveal sword spirit. Sun Ron joins the conversation through video call and demonstrates his spirit sword. Ocean Khan is immediately shocked by the blue color of the sword and realizes that Sun Ron created a sword spirit. It takes time and effort to establish a true connection with the ball and manifest its spirit of the sword, and the instructors in the group praise Sun Ron for this. She then amazes everyone by showing the wealth of her generation and telling that her family forged 13 more swords similar to the ocean just in case one breaks. Then Khan explains the process of creating the spirit sword. Spirit first. The sword is in a chaotic state, but thanks to its persistent training it takes the form of a small animal or a human. With time and practice, develops, gradually gaining intelligence, and some sword spirits wielded by exceptional masters can even think. Hank assures them that they will learn more about it in higher level training and encourages them to strengthen the connection with their Zanpakuto. As the conversation continues, everyone's attention turns to Frog, and the group begins to tease him by asking how a dog can wield a Zanpakuto. To their surprise, Frog surprises them by showing a video of him taking out a Zanpakuto called the Heavenly Sword from his body and then swallowing it. After that, everyone looks at Wang and his friends who eagerly ask if he has a Zanpakuto. He calmly eats his portion of noodles and simply answers yes. To end the conversation, no one seems to notice that Wang doesn't want to participate in the competition. He is worried that if he shows his true strength in the competition, it will be the end of the world. But his friend and mentor takes the competition very seriously and he has no choice. He goes downstairs to ask his parents about his sword, but discovers that they are watching TV. Ayu and his team storm the headquarters of the Shadow faction. After their attempt to kill Sun Junadish, he goes to the attic in search of his sword and finally finds a box with it which begins to glow in the presence of Wang. A boy with white hair appears from the box and says that 10 years have passed. Vank, in fear, quickly closes the box and feels a sharp pain in the amulet. The next day, Vank meets with Franz at the school gates. Chin and Guo make fun of his small wooden sword and make ambiguous jokes and Ron, however, he finds it cute, and only the frogs understand what a huge power lies in Wang's sword. Zhou and Miss Pen come and report that the competition will be held in the 59th squad for 5 days and they will have to stay there. Seeing that Vank did not take his things with him, Ken asks if he will mind, not knowing that Vank is going to pretend that he has a stomachache and return home before the start of the competition. Everyone gets on the bus because Ju has urgent matters. His team capture the boss of the Shadow faction, but it turned out that it was a robot suicide bomber and the real boss is chasing Sauron to kill her on the bus. The sword spirit, Wan Jing, tries to escape, but Wan suppresses him and reminds him of yesterday's agreement. In exchange for silence, he gave the sword spirit crispy noodles. Soon the bus arrives at the gate of the 9th squad, where they are met by 3 other 10th students, ZNO and their instructor Numbers. Tien and Numbers Gr look at each other with strong hatred and envy. They used to be close friends, but now they are rivals who constantly insult and mock each other. They argue about the abilities of their students, but Van gets angry because he can't pretend that he has a stomachache to take revenge on the master. She approaches the BAFTA and uses her trick on him with a test. Array of spiritual power passes through him, and he realizes that he can use this to his advantage. He takes this opportunity and pretends to fall to the ground, clutching his chest. Everyone from Faction 60 gathers around him to check if everything is okay with him. Suddenly, the spirit of his sword appears and tells Wan that his amulet is broken. He understands this and asks the spirit of the sword, why didn't he tell him earlier? To which the spirit replies that he tried to warn him on the bus, but Van didn't let him do it. Then the amulet breaks, releasing an unimaginable amount of spiritual power into the sky. Everyone is horrified and suspects that she did it. She, however, denies her involvement and says that Wan must be playing football because he is so good at pretending that. Sun gets angry and shouts at C to look at the bathtub and asks how can she call this pretending when he is in such a serious condition. Although everything did not go as planned, Van, so far everything is going according to his plan, but he understands that if his power is not suppressed, a disaster could happen. Doctors carefully place the bathtub on the stretcher and Sun Rong rushes to him when the tank stops her and talks about how they went to self-development classes together. She asks him to leave her alone, but he, as always, does not pay attention to her feelings and brags about his current position of the chairman of the student union of Faction 50. And Noah Song Ron tries him, but unfortunately she is stopped by a short girl with white hair. Tank introduces her as the fur coat of the secretary of the student union. Ken, worried about Song Ron, tries to save her but is stopped by Tang's henchmen. Meanwhile, Wang's body is enveloped in purple flames. EC ties him up with bandages like a mummy to put out the fire. Tank knows that the 5th member of their team is behind this, but jokes that Van's spiritual power seems to be very unstable and explosive. Song Rong is furious that he is deliberately trying to harm Van, so she takes out the sword and rushes at Tenga, but she is stopped by Kang, who tells her to restrain her anger before the competition begins. In the medical office, Van escapes from the doctors and begins to look for a way to get out of Faction 59. He knows that his amulet is at its limit and if he uses his spiritual power a few more times, the world will come to an end. Van calls his to the father, who is busy flushing the toilet, but having learned about his son's problems, she goes to see him without even vomiting in the ass. Meanwhile, other students gather in the gym to receive instructions from the Mizu regarding the competition the next day. She explains that the competition will be similar to a Call of Duty match. On the field there are 5 altars: metal, wooden, water, fire and earth. If you stick a sword into the altar, you will earn points, and the team that first gets 100% will win. Then the tank begins to mock over Team 60, indicating that they have only for members who are now sick, and invites them to surrender. In response, the tank says that there are also only for members in Team 59. The tank laughs ominously and says that the 5th member has been with them all this time. Suddenly a huge wave hits Team 60 and a gangster named Fong comes out of it. He is the 5th member of Team 59, but immediately begins to flirt with Sen Rong and invites her to join him if she accepts his flower. Seeing that she in trouble, Chin rushes to her defense, but Biff uses the barrier and throws it away. Difk again asks Sanrong to accept his flower, but Ching returns to attack him. Bifk simply throws him aside and delivers a powerful blow with great speed, but Chen does not give up. He remembers his father's words about the need to fight all types of injustice in the world and releases all his energy to strike. Bifk catches his hand and destroys it with his negative spiritual energy and then throws him into the hall. At that moment Wan enters, thinking that he has found a way out, and catches the Chenek, which flies straight at him. As soon as Wang catches it, Chen's hand is restored, which shocks everyone. As Pan Fun explains, uses negative spiritual energy that can destroy matter upon contact with positive spiritual energy. Frogi wants to tell him that if Wang's amulet breaks, his negative energy will destroy the entire galaxy. At that moment Wang's father calls and asks him to come and pick up the amulet, but Wang hangs up the call. Knowing that he will not be able to leave now, Biffen is surprised how the bow was able to instantly heal Chen's hand. Realizing that he can be stronger than he seems, Diff suddenly inflicts a blow on him filled with negative spiritual energy to test his strength. To his surprise, Biff Wan calmly takes the blow and receives almost no damage. Diff is in shock, realizing that Wan seems to have no spiritual power at all, otherwise his head would have been broken. Wan, devoid of any emotions, simply leaves, and when Sun Rong comes up to ask if he is okay, he gives her the rose that he just stole. UFU then everyone is ordered to go to their rooms to prepare. However, Vank apologizes, saying that he wants to buy a limited supply of sweet potato flavored crispy noodles. Obadi knows that Liu Ying, the head of the Shadow faction, disguised himself as a student of the 59th faction and is watching Wang. Confron pretending to be teenagers, he asks her to date, but when she refuses, he makes the mistake of calling her an old witch. She doesn't like it, and she hits him. Biffen gets up laughing menacingly and calling her a worthy opponent. But soon she shows him the difference in their strength, instantly neutralizing his sphere of negative spiritual energy. Fang gets what he deserves. But fortunately, Wang arrives in time. The Lilin grins when he sees him and immediately decides to change goal. She binds Wang and Fang with her dark spiritual chains, preventing them from escaping. She drags them to the roof and hands them over to her old driver. Then she kicks Wang with her heels, thinking that he is a loser guide, Sanron, but she does not notice that his amulet is about to break. The seal on Wan's power has almost disappeared, and when the Lilin kicks him, insulting his emotions, causing a storm, the spirit of Wan Sor is desperately trying to bring him to his senses so that he does not accidentally music release. Finally, when he says that today the crispy noodles will be sold at a reduced price, Wan comes to his senses and Jing sighs in relief. Lilin changes into Fang with the help of Voodoo and joins the students who are discussing the competition. She suddenly opens the door and announces that Wan was kidnapped to force Sanrong to act Juan to join them, expecting that the enemy might be planning something like this. I ask if the kidnapper is blonde. With this, he not only confirms that this John Liu Yin, the leader of the Shadow faction, it also attracts her attention. Then Ten asks if she should use her calculations, and she says that there is some kind of spiritual force in the old campus. Sensing the impending danger, Sun Ron's guards prepare to take her away to ensure her safety, but she fights them back and states that her family never backs down in a fight. She says that Yan is her closest friend, and she will save him at any cost. The rest of Faction 6 join her together with her bodyguards. Miss G also sends her students, but advises them not to participate in the battle because their main goal is to evaluate the fighting skills of the enemy. Meanwhile, Wan Ling sleeps peacefully because now he does not need to worry about how to avoid the competition, but his sleep is interrupted when the driver reports that it is time to get to work, and Feng begins to call for help. The irritated driver kicks in and sends him to the bottom floor, causing the entire building to shake. Zheng tells Wan that the old man has very strong spiritual power, but he does not. Sun Rong wants to show it, and the others arrive at the place and see that Wan is tied to a post. The bodyguards sit on their flying swords and head to the roof. The driver attacks using his spiritual power and destroys them calmly, while drinking tea and saying that modern youth have worse accuracy than stormtroopers. Having dealt with the first batch, the driver uses his special attack and calls upon soldiers with golden spiritual energy to destroy the enemies. Ro instructs his bodyguards not to raise their heads and fights with an army alone. She summons all her ocean swords and KK, to her surprise, holds back the driver for some time. But his strength is too great and Sun Rong begins to lose and quickly falls to the ground. But then Link intervenes, using his ability to manipulate time to return to the moment when the driver sent the hairdryer flying. Everything that happened before is rewritten as if it was done with the help of Jinjutsu Taiyu translation. She defeats the driver and with the help of her ability makes Ju forget that he defeated the old man. Then the driver is tied up spiritual chain and everyone is surprised to see Ju there. Ju tells the press that all the hostages were rescued and the old man was probably a member of the Shadow faction. The special forces are searching the building and one of them asks Wan if the hole was the result of the battle, but he replies that it was already there when he was brought here. As soon as the special forces soldier leaves the hole, the spirit of the sword Jin appears and asks what to do with the hair dryer that lies unconscious inside. Van orders the genie to look after him and not let him out, thinking that if Biffen doesn't participate then the competition will be cancelled, but he didn't know that Lulin disguised as a Fen will also participate. The next day, to his horror, Van is forced to take part in the competition that he was so desperately trying to avoid and wonders how FN ended up here. The students are given special headphones with a Bluetooth connection to communicate with the team. They are also told not to fly higher than 5 meters from the ground and that the battle area is covered with a special recovery field so that they cannot cause any real damage due to the competition. The competition is about to take place will begin and then the participants place their hands on the magic crystal which teleports them to the Babylon zone. Just at that moment runs up Wang's father to give the amulet, but it is too late. As he enters the Babylon zone, seeing his teacher's father, Zhao excitedly approaches him. Wang's father trusts Zhou and tells him about his son's predicament and that the amulet is broken, leaving him in shock. Faction 59 hacks the system and everyone except Fen participates in the competition in the same place. Meanwhile, all 60 faction members are scattered in different places. Yasha uses his enhancements, rolling to find out the locations of the 60 faction members. I can't find Van's location due to his low strength value. Chen is at the western metal altar, Sun Ron at the northern water altar, Frogi at the southern water altar. Fire and Biffen are also there. Considering the locations of everyone else, Tang predicts that Van must have landed at the eastern wooden altar. As soon as this was said, a member of Faction 59 with orange hair ran towards Van, thinking that he is the lightest. The prey meanwhile ends up in the same place as Faction 59, and he shits bricks fearing that he will be found. His cover is blown when Tan attacks. Gu cleverly left a bait in his place. Tan falls for the trick and hits the bait while Gu slips away. He worries that he only has two paper decodels left and the competition has just begun, but he notices that the red guy is chasing Wang and decides to follow him and deal with. Then Faction 59 disperses to fight with Faction 60 and they manage to capture the Altar of Earth. Having heard this, the rank begins to worrying and hurries to capture the metal altar. But not unexpectedly, he receives a blow from the sharp leaves of a strange metal tree that leaves scratches on his body. Despite this, the rank continues to move forward, but when he reaches the altar, he does not know how to capture it. At this moment, Yasha appears behind him. The Qin says that he should not fight with a woman and invites her to attack him 3 times to be fair, but he is surprised when she says that she can handle it in a few seconds. But nothing happens. He thinks that she is mocking him. But suddenly he loses control of his body and starts beating himself. It was a Yesha technique that releases a web that affects the target's nervous system and transforms. They exchange blows and Frogi absorbs the negative energy of the Baifen, using it to strengthen himself. But despite absorbing the negative energy, Frogi eventually loses to the Baifen, who successfully captures the Altar of Fire. Meanwhile, a red-haired guy appears on the altar of a tree and sees that Vank is lying unconscious on the ground. Considering himself lucky, he heads towards the altar to capture him. However, Vang soon comes to his senses and just at the moment when Ginger is about to attack him, Gu intervenes and amazes him with his special ability, which allows him to literally spit iron rods. They enter into a serious fight and Vang simply watches them without showing any emotions in this. At the same time, Sun Rong is about to capture the water altar, but suddenly she is attacked by Tang. They enter into a fierce, one of them controls his powerful sword spirit. Tango's sword spirit is not inferior to the water spirit Sun Rong and none of them can gain the upper hand. Suddenly it is announced that Faction 59 has successfully captured 4 altars. trying to turn the tide of the battle. Sun Rong tries to use his special technique called the Ocean Dance Technique, but Tang quickly parries it. Freezing the lake to get elemental advantage, Sun Rong is still rushing towards him at full speed, but Tang's sword spirit is able to hold her back with sheer force. They exchange blows demonstrating their skill with the sword, but then at Tang's request the beef enters the fight. Now facing two formidable opponents, Sun Rong is worried about how she will get out of their clutches. Suddenly, they hear the scream of a red-haired guy who flies through the sky like a rocket. A few moments later, a powerful gust of wind sweeps across the entire battle area and breaks the ice, miraculously giving Sun Rong the opportunity to escape. Tan notices that this is a huge negative energy, even stronger than that of the buff, and decides to leave to find out its source. After capturing the Altar of Water, having captured the 5th altar, Faction 59 receives a bonus to speed. But then another announcement is heard saying that Faction 60 has captured Wooden Altar, and everyone is surprised. Through the headphones, Sun Rong reports that Van and the Frogs joined forces to capture the altar few minutes earlier. Ginger and Go entered into a fear, spitting out words and sending powerful blasts at the enemy, but he could not repeat them too often. Soon he ran out of words and he was left without protection. For a moment Ginger laughed at him and then insulted the Veneers and hit him. At that moment the Frogs came onto the stage to absorb the spiritual energy that was released during the fight, but when he saw Van he quickly hid and suddenly came up with a plan, but he knew that it would cost him friendship with Vano. He apologized to Vano in advance and began to criticize him, sending powerful words towards Ginger. After hearing Mu speak badly about NM, Van for the first time in a long time felt strong emotions. His amulet, not only his spiritual strength, but also emotions, making him cold and emotionless now. At the amulet was on the verge of destruction. He struggled, tried to suppress his emotions so as not to activate his powers. Due to strong emotions, Van began to emit a huge amount of negative energy. When he saw this, Froggy jumped on him to absorb the negative energy and save the world. Van suddenly came up with a plan. He decided to use Froggy to absorb the excess negative energy, and then he could use his spiritual energy. Van merged with Froggy, creating an unholy mixture of man and beast. I was amazed by this and asked him if this was a joke, but the redhead just laughed at Van Gogh and said that even after all this, he is still just useless trash. Not paying attention to his words, Wong walked up to him and casually touched his sword, which was enough for it to break. Then Wong easily pushed the redhead to the side, and he flew through the air like a rocket, so he grabbed the wooden altar and turned off the acceleration of Faction 59. Hearing this, the tank panicked and asked Isha, how is this possible? She told him that Vank combined his spiritual power with strength Frobs and Nad. It is impossible to stop Su. After this, Vank along with Go seized control of the fire altar, leaving the tank. In a rage, he ordered Defend to go to the earthly altar and tell the other members of Faction 59 about their new strategy to not fight Van Gogh and change positions to control most of the altars. Then Wong went to the metal altar and woke up Chen. Waking up, Chen was amazed to see Wong and immediately began to look for Isha, claiming that she had deceived him. Then Wong captured the altar of metal, having won over Faction 59. Seeing that the rank was rejoicing at this victory, Wong smiled in surprise that he was already at the limit and asks Wong to stop, otherwise the world will be doomed. Fortunately, he is interrupted by Sen Rong, who contacts everyone and reports that she is with Guo and they are about to capture the Altar of Fire. She mentions that they have one advantage, Wong Kling, and this makes him blush. Sen Rong asks him to capture the Earthly One. The altar, which is guarded by FN, is the strongest member of Faction 59, and Chin must guard the metal altar, which they have already captured. Vank understands that Chin is now the most important person in their strategy, and their victory depends on him. Meanwhile, San Rong and Guo go to the Altar of Fire using water to hide their movements from Yasha. Having reached the altar, Guo begins to tease Ginger that from Faction 59, distracting him, while San Rong sneaks inside to take over the altar. Tang guesses her plan and immediately orders Ginger Tu to return to the altar and stop San Rong from capturing him. He rushes to the altar to stop San Rong and Guo uses his verbal arsenal to attack him, but Ginger Tu trips on a rock and falls, and the attack accidentally hits San Rong, pushing her away from the altar and giving Tan enough time to get there. San Rong remembers the enmity between their families and how he and Tan fought since childhood, defending the honor of their families. Tan shouts at Ginger to hurry up and take the sword, and Guo apologizes for missing the first time and aims at him again. He managed to hit him, but that was not enough to stop him. Sen Rong throws one of his swords on the altar and begins to fight Ginger Tu with another sword. However, the countdown does not start because the participant must insert the sword into the altar, realizing that Sen Rong is coming to the altar to insert the sword, but suddenly the spirit of the Tang sword intervenes and breaks her sword. Then the tank taunts her for missing the opportunity to capture the altar and says that although he planned to win with a crushing score of 5-0, he is still glad that he won with a score of 4-1. He mocks Faction 60, who are in a difficult situation, and his strategy becomes clear to Sen Rong, who understands that they must capture the fire altar, otherwise they will lose. She knows that the tank is watching the wine, and he sent Disha to capture his altar if he leaves. The elder Sang Ron tells Go that they must do everything possible to prevent them from capturing this altar, and Chen must do the same to prevent Biffen from capturing the metal altar. Meanwhile, Biffen approaches the metal altar and begins to fight with Chono. Chen wants to fight him again, but remembers Sang Ron's words, and instead of attacking, he dodges the blows of Biffer to insert the sword into the altar. He dodges well from Tok, and Luwan, who pretends to be Bengo, mocks him, calling him a coward. Having heard her ridicule, Chin remembers his difficult childhood and how his father called him a coward and beat him if he did not cope with tasks. Despite the surge of emotions, Chin restrains his feelings and continues to evade attacks. Bai Fenthrin understands why the altar is called metal. He collects all the falling metal leaves with the help of his spiritual energy and throws them. Chen seriously knows his wound, but despite this, Chen tries to stop Bai Fenthrin with time at the fire altar. Sun Rong realizes that Chan is in danger and asks Guo to leave and help him. Guo hesitates and says that he cannot go against Tang and the other guy alone, but she insists that he leave. Guo moves away from them and hides unnoticed, charging his sword, while Sun Rong fights with the spirit of Tan's sword. Suddenly a phoenix appears from Gu's sword, which is the spirit of his sword. He is very powerful, but requires sacrifices from other sword spirits, so Sun Rong and Guo planned in advance this. She sacrificed her sword spirit, which helped the spirit of Phoenix Guo to manifest, and together they hit a huge fire explosion of Nathan and Ginger, defeating them. Returning to the metal altar, Chen is seriously injured but continues to try to stop. Bai Fenthrin tries to get up but cannot, and begins to cry, thinking that he failed his friends. As soon as Beef inserts his sword into the altar, suddenly manifests Chen's secret ability that only appears when he wants to protect something valuable. He awakens with golden hands, filled with spiritual energy, and pushes away Bai Fenthrin and sets his own. This allows Faction 60 to gain a 3-point advantage, and then Wang captures the wooden altar, increasing the lead to 4 points. But Liu Yin is tired of pretending to be cocky teenager. She rips off the mask and shows her true colors to destroy everyone. While discussing strategies, Su Rong guessed that even if she and Gui capture the fire altar and Chen Chao the metal one, they still won't be able to catch up with Faction 59. Therefore, to ensure victory, they must use their secret weapon Valen. Using chaotic battles on the fire and metal altar, they plan to distract Isha. At this moment, the frogs and Ivan break their spiritual connection, allowing them to get to the earthly altar without warning Isha since he has low strength. Everything goes according to plan. Su Rong and Isha are shocked that they are losing the competition more than the fact that the Thane was defeated. She was interested in who could get to the wooden altar because Yin was still at the water altar. Suddenly Froggy decides to reveal her identity, which scares Isha. She tries to tie the frogs with her web, but it doesn't work because it only affects people and not spiritual beasts. In addition, the web gave away the location of Visha, and Froggy jumps on her and frightens with his terrible appearance. Meanwhile, Gu tells Suran to go check on Wan Ling at the earth altar, and he himself goes to the metal altar and joins Chen. She agrees and leaves to join Valen. Although now they have more altars, they are still behind in the ranking of Faction 59, which has a better chance of winning. While all this is happening in the arena, Wang's father, who is in the control room along with the staff of Factions 59 and 60, is thinking about how he is doing. Their son since childhood. Van was used to not paying attention to successes and failures because his amulet suppressed all his emotions. He never allowed emotions to get the better of him until he met Sun Rong for the first time, and his heart skipped a beat. Since then, he began to gradually experience emotions, and the more friends he had, the softer his heart became. Now, when he goes to capture the earthly altar, His emotions are about to burst out. He is trembling with excitement thinking about how happy he will be his friends, and they when he cannot hold the sword straight, and his amulet begins to break again. The more he tries to hold his emotions, the stronger they become, and a stream of negative energy comes out of him. But Sun Rong comes up to him and takes his hand, and her touch and kind words help Wang calm down. Together they capture the Earth altar and win the competition. Sun Rong praises Wang for blushing and encourages him to be himself while they flirt. Liu Yin, who came here after defeating Qian'an, kills Sunu Rong. Her soul leaves her body. Ivan Lin breaks his heart when she disappears from his arms. He screams in rage, and his amulet that he has worn for so long finally breaks, and the world begins to collapse under the crushing pressure of his spiritual energy. Frog stops time. A wand breaks out of his stream and continues to attack Liu Yi, making her stop too. After seeing his true power, Liu Yi taunts him, saying that he was unable to protect the wrong. She attacks him, but for him it is just an acrobatic trick, and with one blow, he throws her away with his fury uncontrollable attack to knock her out. But Wang does not stop and uses his spiritual energy to launch giant stones at her, which cause a huge explosion around the London. He is about to deal the final blow, but suddenly stops, not wanting to kill her. Even when Liu Ying begs him to finish her off, he decides to spare her, remembering his memories. With Sun Rong, he walks up to Sun Rong's body and shakes her. He tries to use his spell to restore her, but nothing works. Froggy tells him that Liu Ying hit her with such hatred that Sun Rong's spirit was torn apart, and even Wang can't save her, but he notices that she is still warm and breathing. Frogs explains that Sun Rong is only alive because he stopped time, but if it goes again, she will die forever. Wang cries helplessly and says Frog that he must find another way to save her. He understands how lonely he will be without her and declares that he will use all his spiritual power to save her. Frogs warns that this will destroy the world, but Wang insists that he will restore it again. Wang Ling has already solved all the technical problems, turning the Earth on and off for times, and each time hoping that everything will return to its original state, including that Sun Rong will be alive. But no matter how many times he rebooted the world, Sun Rong remained dead. Jake joins him and says that the spirit of Sun Rong has shattered into pieces, and no one can say that life has already ended. Despite this, Van continues to reboot the world, but Froggy tells him that the result will be the same no matter how many times he tries. Van screams in despair and regrets that he did not kill Liu Yi earlier, then Sun Rong would have been alive with him. Frogs explains that now that he stopped time, they can think about how to fix everything. Vine gets an idea and he asks the frogs if they can go back in time if they move faster than light. Frogs agrees, but warns that this will require enormous spiritual power. Van says that he can do it, and Frogs warns that this is against the laws of nature, but Van is determined to save Sun Rong, and Frogs decides to become a better woman and risks everything so that they both can go back in time. Suddenly Wang finds himself at his school on the first day of school when high school students begin to bully him. This time Chen and Guo protect him from bullies, not Song Rong. He even gives them $10 without understanding why he did this. Song Rong is also not in class and Huan can't remember her. But every time Song Rong was supposed to be there, he experiences strong emotions, although he doesn't understand why. No matter where he goes, it seems to him that someone is missing, and who he is attacks until Java. The new world seems the same, but without her. The reality so that when Wang and the frogs combine their powers, space and time merge and release so much spiritual energy that they end up creating a new world without Sun Rong. This new world constantly absorbs everything from the old world except her, which will ultimately lead to the destruction of the old world. Time passes and it seems that no one from the old world can stop it, but when it seems that nothing can prevent the destruction, Sun Rong's soul ends up in the underground. The world ruler of the underworld is shocked to hear her name because she has the same last name as her master. She checks the database and discovers that Song Rong is indeed a descendant of her master and the former ruler of the underworld. Moreover, she realizes that her boyfriend is so upset about her death that his actions threaten to destroy the world. She immediately returns Song Rong to her body, and when she gets up, she sees the spirit of Wang's sword there. She asks him what is happening and Hui Zan Jing reacts as if he just saw it. Luffy meanwhile in the New World, Ven and his classmates visit the amusement park. Jia, their guide, talks about the fortune teller statue and everyone tries to try their luck, but Ven feels that something is wrong and decides to test his destiny. To everyone's surprise, the statue breaks. While they are riding the rides, Van Ling tests Juchen and Gu notice that he is acting strange. Yvonne tells them that he feels like he has already been here with someone special. They remind him that they are here to have fun and ask him not to worry. They all sit on the Ferris wheel together and then Wang Ling finally realizes that there is no one important here. Meanwhile, in the old world, Sang Ron learns about everything from the spirit of Wang Sor and says that if they do not wake up Wang, then this world will soon be destroyed. The only way to do this is to take the sword of Wang Sor and destroy his new world. Sen Ron takes the sword and heads to the parallel universe where Wang is. She bypasses the self-defense mechanism of the universe and creates a crack in her through which she attacks Ven and destroys the border between the two worlds. As soon as she does this, memories return to Ven and his friends tell him to go to his world where a girl is waiting for him through the crack between dimensions. Senrong pulls Ven out and they are reunited. This time, Wang turns back time and returns to the moment when Chen captured the metal altar of the Lun, appears and tries to attack him, but Veg manages to throw her away and bury her in the ground. Like this, thus, Suran remains safe and they win the competition. However, Suran does not remember anything about what happened up to this point. She runs up to Wang to celebrate their victory, but when she is surrounded by FBI reporters, she asks Wang if he is happy with what happened. Wang remembers the events that unfolded in the distorted world and realizes that his spell did not work because the world was too chaotic. Robbie tells him that there is only one way to save the world and for this they need to turn back time, but it will be worth it to Suran that she will forget how Wang saved her. Suran assures Wang that even if she doesn't remember how they saved each other, her feelings will still lead her to him. They turn back time and save everything while Vank watches his friends celebrate the victory. His father approaches him with a new amulet. The FBI warns him that by wearing the amulet, he will stop having feelings for Suran and the relationship will cool down. But seeing that Suran and everyone else are happy, Vank decides to put on a new amulet in hopes of world peace. When his father puts a new amulet on his neck, Frabai warns Wang to never take such a risk again. He has destroyed and restored the world so many times that his spiritual power is greatly depleted, complaining that maintaining peace in the world is troublesome due to the fact that Washington used too much spiritual energy. Haas is happening all over the world. All technologies that work on spiritual energy have suffered and people do not understand what is happening. Also, fencing competitions have been cancelled which consume too much spiritual energy. The schools have reopened after the summer holidays and everyone in the 60s is happy and satisfied that their team got into the top 10, but the participants are unhappy because there was a good chance of winning the competition. If they continued, Van has become strangely quiet and distant since they defeated the 59th faction, and Sang Ron is worried about him soon miss. Tien comes to the class and collects all the assignments before telling them about the changes in the second-year curriculum. She then announces that since their school defeated the elite faction 59, the cultivation department has paid special attention to them. So this afternoon, it will conduct a test to determine the level of spiritual power and everyone who has not reached the level foundation will be expelled from the elite class. Also, those from the regular class who can pass the test will end up in the elite class. Everyone in the back row screams when they hear this, and Sang Rong understands that they have not yet reached the minimum level to pass the test. She is confident in her abilities and so is Chen. And although Gu is nervous, he thinks that he can handle it. But when they started talking about preparation, they suddenly became worried about Wang, deciding that he had been idle all summer. Soon Rong runs up to him and offers to share his knowledge with him. Spiritual power to help him pass the test. Chen suggests using a special technique from his family that can help anyone overcome the initial level. They begin to argue which technique will be better for Wang, but then they are interrupted by a rank who says that Wang has already left the class. He goes to the toilet where his spirit sword Jin appears and asks what he is going to do with the test. Wang understands that it will be difficult to hide his abilities, but then a Gu appears. He admits that he has found a secret way to create a special tablet that can increase the user's spiritual energy for an hour, and with help, you can temporarily reach the initial level. He offers Won to help him create this pill so that he can pass the test. Won understands his true intentions and asks Guo if he passed the initial level. Guo replies that he was caught and then starts crying and begging Won to help him because he was idle all summer. He says that if he doesn't pass the test, his parents will kick him out of the house. Well, Won doesn't mind being naughty sometimes, so they walk up to Froggy and look at him threateningly so that he can help them by creating the tablet. Meanwhile, Khan finished setting up the equipment for the test on the field. He then explains how the tests are done to find out whether they have passed the initial level or not. Khan tells everyone that they will need to stand in the center for the test and concentrate their spiritual energy. How he does this, then the formation will determine their spiritual power and create a thundercloud above them with the corresponding force from the cloud. A lightning will strike which will hit Kango, and there will be an explosion and then black smoke will appear. He tells the students that they will need to go through the same thing, and in order to pass the test the students have to withstand the lightning strike. They are panicked after seeing how the test is going and are afraid that they will die if their body is not strong enough. Khan tells them that there is no need to worry because modern improvement is safe and they will not die from a lightning strike. If someone gets seriously injured, then there will be an ambulance nearby, but this does not reassure the students much, and the first one who passes the test is immediately fried will be the last to take the test. It seems that Miss Pian noticed that the two bows are not there and she goes to the laboratory where Wang and Guo have finished their preparation, and now all that remains for them is wait until the dish is ready. Suddenly, they hear footsteps, and Gu panics that Miss Pian will find them. White has an idea and he pours water on himself, and Pian finds them in the laboratory without shirts. She decides to leave them alone, but then bursts into the room and says no homosexuals. She asks what the hell are they doing here, and Gu replies that they fell into the pool, so they came here to dry. Pan asks about the stove and the toad orders Gu distract her. Gu pounces on her and takes advantage of the moment. Guo quickly takes the pills out of the oven. Pan scolds the dog and Jia goes to the oven, opens it but finds only smelly socks there. She screams in rage at the guys and leaves the laboratory. Van is glad that they were not caught and asks Guo where he hid the pills. He regretfully replies that he hid them in his stomach before turning into a Super Saiyan. The energy from the pills begins to overload his body and he swells to enormous size. Vent hits in and releases air, causing him to lose consciousness. Gu comes to his senses just before it is his turn to take the test. He is still thinking about what happened when he hears Khan calling his name, man saying that if he does not pass the test, he will automatically fail it. After surviving the lightning strike, he realizes that somehow he made it through. In fact, it was Wang's strike that helped Gu overcome the barrier and go to the intermediate stage of the foundation. Now it's Wang's turn and Gu is worried about him because he didn't take the pill. Khan gives him a protective helmet because his spiritual power indicator is too low, and his friends are also worried about him. Wang stands in the center of the formation and begins to concentrate on his spiritual power. Xin jumps out and tells him that there is a fatal in the formation flaw because it is designed only for ordinary people. The clouds condense the entire city and constantly strike it with powerful lightning. Although thunderclouds have an upper voltage limit, the time is not limited, and Din tells Wang that the lightning will strike until all the spiritual energy around them is absorbed by the formation. Wang is not worried, but Sun Ran is terrified that he may not survive the lightning strike. She rushes to the formation and begins to turn it off with the help of Kong, and his other friends also join them. However, they are unable to pull out the giant plug and the spiritual energy around them quickly disappears. Wang realizes that they need to stop this quickly and throws his sword to Song Ran as soon as she takes it. She finds herself in a distorted world where she and Wang Wei save each other. He tells her to use the sword and cut the wire because the tree is an insulator, and she agrees with one quick blow. Song Ran cuts not only the wire but also the earth, the sea, and the clouds. This happened thanks to the power of Jin. Ivan leaves the formation and gives his protective helmet to Khan, asking if he passed the test. Khan was speechless because Van remained completely unharmed after such a powerful lightning, while everyone is wondering why the device failed. No one seems to notice that Jing used too much energy in the last blow and accidentally opened a crack in space. Through this crack, the spiritual energy of the earth flows into the demon realm, and the demon emperor, who rules there, seems to have noticed this too. He calls his advisor and asks why he feels an anomaly in the dimension. The advisor tells him that a crack has formed in space connecting the Earth. The conversation reminds the Earth of the demon emperor that several years ago, he sent a demon frog to conquer her. The advisor says that they actually sent a ferocious demon frog who was at the level of the demon king to conquer the Earth. But nothing more has been heard from him. The demon emperor is furious that the frog has not returned for so long, not knowing that it has become a pet. He also feels that the spiritual energy of his dimension is flowing to the Earth through the crack, and the advisor cannot in this is to believe. He claims that the average spiritual energy of the Earth in the past was higher than theirs, and if now it absorbs their energy, it means its value has decreased. Seeing that the emperor is furious, the advisor assures him that he will personally go to the Earth and conquer it. He sends a message to the frog that he will soon arrive too. In a panic, having learned that his owner is heading to the Earth, the frog hurries home to Van and sees that he is watching the news that due to the decrease in the spiritual energy of the Earth, the crop has become smaller. The frog sits between Van Gogh and his father, and at the same time, a mentor comes to Earth through the portal, breathing in fresh air filled with spiritual energy. He takes out his cheekbone 15 and calls Froggy, who shudders. From the call, he ignores calls and messages, and Jinky looks at his phone before asking who this man is. Calling himself his master, Froggy says that the mentor of the embodiment of all the wisdom of the world of demons. He is an immortal demon, as ancient as the universe itself, and he teaches future demon kings. Frog says that he has been for a long time under his leadership, and it was the worst time in his life. Jinky realizes that he is so afraid of his mentor that he came here to hide. Soon Van's mom serves dinner and everyone sits down at the table. Van's father is working on a new amulet that will make Van more expressive and wants frogs to help him. Van's mom complains what would have worked out better for him because lately, the cost of spiritual ingredients has increased greatly. Later, Van's father finishes work on a new prototype of the amulet and asks frogs to put it on Van. When he takes off the old one, they work together and press on acupressure points to calm the energy. While changing the amulets, everything works out. But then Vag starts talking incoherently. The father realizes that Froggy has mixed out and put on the amulet incorrectly. Because of this small mistake, Van's energy is about to explode, but before she destroys the world, Rugby acts and bites him, absorbing all the excess energy. After that, they put on the amulet correctly, and soon Miss PN comes to visit them. The new amulet immediately begins to work, and the wine warmly welcomes her and invites her to the house. Miss Penn came to complain that Van is not a good student and doesn't show enthusiasm in school, but Van's mother is happy that her son can study normally. However, because of the new amulet, Van suddenly became full of energy, as if he drank 100 cans of energy drink. He instantly completes all tasks and even shows the pills that he has perfected. Moreover, he uses his power and animates several pencils and erasers, making them obey him. Miss PN has nothing more to say because Van has successfully done what other students could not do. She says that he only needs one pencil and an eraser to prove that he has learned everything. Ivan, with a snap of his fingers, takes life from the rest of the objects, while PN praises his parents. Discuss what is happening. Mom Lenga wants to know what was in the amulet, and Dad says that because of this Van has become dissociable. He asks his wife to distract the teacher while he changes the amulet. Van's mom offers to show Miss Penn the house and takes her away, and Dad, Van, and the frog again start working on the amulet. This time Van's dad has excellent control over his emotionality. Ivan speaks like an ordinary person, but he still feels that something is wrong, and as soon as he says this, the objects in the living room begin to shake. When Wang's mother returned home, she was shocked to see that all the objects in the room suddenly became sentient. She did not want the teacher to know about this, so she took him aside and said that she wanted to talk to him alone. They went upstairs, and Miss Penn found out that Wang's parents were weak cultivators and Wang had no friends until high school. She was touched when she heard his story. In the meantime, he used the frog as a spiritual weapon and hit sentient objects with it to return them to their previous form. When he finished, the frog was exhausted from his teacher. Before that, he hid his spiritual energy so that the teacher would not notice him, but now he used it and the teacher found him. The frog shuddered when the teacher teleported in front of Wang's house and felt that his spirit was leaving his body. Meanwhile, Wang's father panicked because the amulet was about to break down, and in order to prevent an explosion, he decided to remove it by force. As soon as he did this, a powerful spiritual force burst out of Wang's body. The teacher just at that moment opened the door to their house and he was hit by spiritual energy that was so strong that it melted with Peng went down. He already looked normal. Peng says goodbye to everyone, saying that now she knows that good grades are not everything in life. Fan advises Wan to try his best but does not say what is behind it. An interesting story, and a killer nicknamed Idler was flying with his girlfriend when their plane hit severe turbulence, exploded. The killer was thrown out of the plane and no one has seen him since. Chen asks if he died but Guo doesn't believe it. He claims that the killer survived the crash and has been living in solitude since then. In addition, he heard rumors on the internet about his girlfriend, who was considered dead but was recently seen near their school. At this moment, Miss Peng enters the classroom and asks everyone to sit down. Then she introduces a new student who show excellent results on the last test for spiritual strength. A shy girl wearing thick glasses enters the class and Vang suddenly recognizes her as the girl he saw it in parallel world without Senran, and even Jinky seems to recognize her. They continue to look at this seemingly timid and shy girl and Senran thinks that she is looking at him. After that, the new girl introduces herself as Ling Xiao and Pan says that you need to make friends with her because she is from a very poor family. Later that day, Ven and his friends discuss the story of the killers in the toilet. Someone claims that the current leader of the Shadow faction, Lin, is being held in their school. The Chin says that for someone like it won't be difficult for her to escape, but Guo says that if they can catch the demonic frog in their school for 10 years, then they can detain Lin for some time. This moment, they see how the Assassin King's girlfriend passes by them, and Chen immediately rushes after her and his friends follow him. They go into the storage room and that there is no one there, but someone clearly lives there. They are looking for some evidence when suddenly they hear that someone has entered and are hiding under the table. It is Lin Xiao, and when she begins to undress, the Chin jump out from under the table in horror. They are called perverts and Lin attacks them. Chen explains that they were just looking for you, but Lin does not believe him and throws a broom at him. She hits the statue behind them and the secrets, which in her head goes off, opening the hatch under them. The three of them fall down and Vin calmly follows them. Meanwhile, Yu gets to the prison where she is holding her younger sister Liu Yi. She is glad to see the older one sister and asks her to be released so they can revive the Shadow faction. She is shocked when you point your bow at her. She tells Li Yin that she failed because she couldn't complete the task of killing Sunrum and fires a warning shot that grazes her cheek before the bullet hits the floor behind her. Before you can do anything, Gu and the others fall screaming from the roof. Wan is also behind, and he apologizes to the killer for intruding on her family, and he finds a safe place to land and creates a portal leading all his friends there. They land in a dark room, and when Van turns on the light, he discovers that this is a secret isle base. Everyone begins to look around and finally finds a wall with clues in which the greatest killer seems to be investigating an accident separating him from the girl. In the meantime, in prison, Yu says that the cause of the accident was a portal to the demon world and she was pulled there. She lived in the demon world for 10 years translating documents from human language to language of demons. One day she found a contract for murder, the purpose of which was herself, and received it from none other than her younger sister on the other side. Ven and his friends also quickly found out the truth. Guo puts everything they know on the map and says that 10 years ago on the same day 3 very important events happened. Firstly, the airship on which Yu and the Idler were exploded and she was thrown out of it. Secondly, a demonic frog came to her from a giant portal. And thirdly, Ju defeated her. Suddenly, Huang remembers the events of that day, and everything falls into place after he kicked the demonic frog, the spiritual cannon that it was charging fire, and caused enormous damage, due to which the plane on which Idler was flying and Yu fell. He saw how the plane lost control and tried to level it with his spiritual power, but Yu was not wearing a seat belt and was thrown out of the plane. The plane was landed, but Idler could only cry because of his girlfriend. After that's why Yu disappeared from the network and went to 60 to find her. Everyone starts crying thinking about the epic love story of two killers, but one of them just shrugs his shoulders realizing what happened. Now you look at Lu Yan accusing her of causing the plane explosion to get rid of her and take over the Shadow faction. Lu replies that she had nothing to do with the explosion, although she was keeping an eye on her place. You do not trust her and shoot her with an arrow. Akon appears from out of nowhere and stops you. He tells you that she is wrong about the accident and admits that he is her boyfriend Idler. You smile through your tears when she says that he is recovered and become like this. Can tells her that he decided to stay in school to find her when he was sad because he lost her. He ate a lot of junk food to feel better and now he became like this. They are happy that they are together again and kiss, and the onion screams that it is better will die before she sees this. She screams at the sisters to stop being jealous of her, but Yuan Kan don't hear her and they leave for their long-awaited honeymoon. Later, when Ven and his friends take the elevator to return to the surface, they meet Yuan Kan, who have kiss marks on their faces. Ven looks at them then and finally understands everything. Soon after, Kan takes a course on how to care for the Zanpakutu. He says that due to improper use, Zanpakutu can dull and become clumsy so soon. It will have an annual seminar on sword care. Jin tells Van that it has never been cleaned since its creation, and he is looking forward to it, but Van still can't get Lin out of his head later. When he is riding home on the train with his friend, Sarong says that her ocean sword was melted down, but the spirit of the sword has not yet been revived after it was sacrificed to summon the phoenix. Puchin says that he regularly cleans his sword using an online service. Sanrong warns him that large swords need to be taken to authorized repair shops for proper maintenance. Guo says that he has a coupon for a 20% discount at a repair shop near his house, and Sanrong boasts of his wealth, showing VIP passes to all the repair shops in the area. She turns to Ven and asks if he wants to join them this weekend to get his sword repaired. Not knowing that Jing is already fixing his sword in the company of some mommies next weekend, Sanrong takes his friends in a first-class repair shop. Gu and Qing can't take their eyes off the various legendary swords in the store like any real man when Lin approaches them. She works in the store part-time repairing and restoring swords. Lin says that she grew up surrounded by swords and her mentor was the spirit of the sword, who was like an older sister to her. Her parents had already left for Milkan. The spirit of the sword once also left to repair itself and has not returned since then. Lin has been working in different workshops hoping to see her one day. Spirit's sister Chen says that Lin hasn't bought a single sword anymore because she loved her previous one too much, but it's just a joke because she doesn't have money for a new sword. Vin asks what she will do at the annual sword-making workshop next week. Lin doesn't know what to answer. Suddenly Tan comes in and starts mocking the 60 students who are so poor that they can't afford a sword. He says that he will help her earn some money and a good bonus and throws a bunch of swords into her hands, demanding that she repair and polish them to tomorrow. Lin says that it will take at least 3 days, but Tan doesn't want to listen to her. Sanrong uses his VIP pass to hire Lin for the day so she won't be disturbed, but she stops her, saying that Lin can finish the job if she works overtime. Lin says that she gets paid for every sword repair. She is desperate for money and her body is also not suitable for fans. When Wang and his friends leave, they say that it was just bullying. Sanrong suggests Lin buy a sword so she doesn't have to have so much work, but Chin thinks that this will have a bad effect on her self-esteem. While they discuss options, Van stops at the counter where anyone can forge a sword. He is going to forge a sword for Lin, and everyone thinks he's a genius. Lin leaves the store late in the evening and locks it up, unaware that her friends snuck inside. Sanrong got permission from the owner and Wang prepared the design of the sword, and everyone decided to chip in for the materials. Sanrong reads the instructions and suggests checking the materials first. Guo puts the fang on the scanner beast that he bought on the internet and finds out that it is intangible. He is proud of it, but Chin asks him to move away when he puts a figurine from a meteorite on the scanner, which turns out to be a material moth. In shock, Anne asks where did he get it from. Achin replies that he stole it from his father. Then Sanrong takes out a potion of the level plus. The bows are surprised, but she refuses to say where he got it. Finally, Vin takes out the crown and the demon advisor whom he found in front of his house. He doesn't even know what is this sword and where did it come from. When he puts it on the scanner, it shows the B level and then it breaks because the sword is too powerful for him. Then they begin to forge the sword and throw all the raw materials into the oven. The next morning, Lin returns to the store and begins her usual work, and her friends are waiting for her there. They give her a sword that they forged themselves and Lin cries with joy. Everyone thinks that she is crying because the sword is ugly and they apologize that they could not do better. But Lin says that this is not the case and inserts a new sword into the sheath from the old one and it fits perfectly. Sun Rong understands that Wang knew about this and specially made the sword liked at Lin is very happy gift and exclaims that this is the best gift in her life. At that moment there is a dance with the store manager who follows him like a dog. He mocks the ugly sword they made for Lin and asks her to fight him to evaluate his sword. Sun Rong also takes out his pass, but the manager decides in favor of Tan because the store belongs to his company. Chin tells Lin that she should not risk fighting this idiot, but she really needs this job, and she accepts the challenge. They go to the arena and Lin puts on full armor. Tan calls on the spirit of his sword and the global warming in the store immediately stops. He easily cuts the metal block to demonstrate his strength and Lin is frightened by the tank, points his sword at her creating a blizzard and then rushes at her. She is horrified and instinctively blocks his attack with her sword and then suddenly hundreds of demonic eyes rush to Tan. He finds himself alone in the vast universe and then Lin's sword shows his true demonic power. He points at the sword Tenga curse that spreads throughout his body and begins to suck the spiritual power from him and his sword. The tank begins to decrease as his energy leaves the body. But then the door opens and something rushes past them, cutting the Tenga sword and freeing him from the curse. At the last moment Sun Rong and the others run out into the arena to congratulate their friend on the victory and Wang calls on the Xin to which he just saved the Tenga. Later at school something strange happens. A black viscous liquid collects and takes shape until turns into an advisor who finally comes to life. He panics when he realizes that his crown is missing, but then notices that it is hanging on the hilt of Lin's sword. In order to return it, the advisor attacks Lin and possesses her body. He becomes enraged and demands to be told who took his crown of costs and turned it into a vulgar sword. He uses a special technique called soul searching and sees Lin's memories, in which Sun Rong gave her a sword. The advisor in Lin's body laughs ominously and envelops her in a demonic aura. Obviously, the ancestor of Sun Junadish, and now he is going to take revenge. The next day, there will be a holiday called the Autumn Reunion, which is very similar to Valentine's Day for cultivators. People make talismans to give them to their loved ones, wishing them health. Wang Guo and Chen spy on the couple when Khan arrives there and takes away the talisman that the girl wanted to give to her. Both friends seeing this, Sun Rong begins to think how she can give her talisman to Wan when suddenly Lin appears behind her. She suggests break the rules and stay at school overnight with a bath and give him a gift. Meanwhile, Guo tells his friends about the mirror in the school basement, which every year on this night shows the future. Rank really wants to look at it, but when he learns about supernatural stories associated with the mirror, for example, that you can hear the voice of a girl and see her coming out of the toilet, he quickly gives up. Wang ignores them for his crispy noodles. When Sun Rong enters, the class hits him on the head with a ruler and does not explaining nothing leaves. This was a signal for Dan to meet her at the school gate at night, and although he does not understand this, his inquisitive friends guess at night. Van pays Sun Junusova that she asked Lin to be their guide since she lives on the school campus. But Van notices something strange in her. Suddenly the earth begins to shake and they hear a terrible woman's laughter. They do not know what is happening, unaware that all this is the work of Louis. She became Yondu from the Guardians of the Galaxy, manipulated the arrow by her sister and broke free from her prison. Now that she is free, she wants to find an escape route, and luckily she sees a crack in the wall from which water is flowing out. This leads her to a sewer cistern and she climbs up through the pipes. At about the same time, when the Chin are relieving themselves, they feel some vibrations coming from the toilet, and as soon as Gu opens it, a strong stream of water presses him to the wall. At first he almost loses consciousness in fear, and then Go follows him when he sees a hand stick out. Wan and the girls rush to their aid after hearing them scream. While Sun Rong is Guo, Wang notices that Louis is not running away from the toilet, so he just flushes her like which she is and sends her back to where she came from. Looks like she borrowed someone's plot armor because she lands at Khan's secret base and finds the elevator. Meanwhile, Sun Rong puts amulets on the faces of his friends who are unconscious and wonders what made them pass out. Lin invites them to continue their adventure, and Sun Rong thinks that this is her chance to be alone with Wango. However, when he finds out that Lung is running away again, he decides to stop her. He finds her at the elevator and makes her fall through the floor. Sun Rong and Lin run there, but see only a hole and Lin leaves so as not to disturb the couple. Zheng and Wang notice that there is a demon hiding in her but don't want to talk about it yet. Wang and Senrong walk through the school and finally comes to the mirror where she appears before giving him the talisman she made, but just as she is about to give it back, Lin appears and punches Wang. Senrong does not understand what is happening but then sees Lin's reflection in the mirror and realizes that she is actually a demon. She takes out swords to fight with her, but the advisor stops her and says that the mirror is actually a portal to the demon world. He says that tonight he can open the door to the demon world and take her there to take revenge. He puts his hand into the mirror and the moon and the rest of the world suddenly turns red. The passage to the demon world is hidden and the advisor pulls Senrong towards him, but Liu Yi appears again and attacks Senrong, declaring that no one will take her loot. Suddenly Wang releases his power and rushes through in the corridor, saving Senrong because he doesn't want to lose her again. Lin's attack hits Liu Yin and expels the soul of the demon advisor from her. The demon is sent to the demon world and the mirror breaks along with the portal lying on the ground. Wang curses her, saying that she deceived him again, and in response, he hits her with his fist. Then he falls to the ground and smiling takes her talisman. The next day, when Wang listens to Gu music, he comes up to him and says that Chen's father is punishing him at the school gates. Everyone gathered to watch the fight and they find out that Chen's level of spiritual power has dropped due to the fact that he watches too many live broadcasts. The father asks him why he has become so depressed and he replies that the master of his favorite streamer is sick and she asks to donate money for his treatment, so he sends some of his spiritual energy so that her master will get better. Ken's father accepts this explanation because helping those in need is the motto of their family. He's about to leave but asks his son where their family medicine is. He pretends that he does not know, but the streamer suddenly talks about to a kind subscriber who sent her a valuable medicine. Chen's father loses his temper and attacks him by smashing his phone and saying that if he ever supports the streamer, he will be expelled from the family. Later, Chen's friends wonder how he could fall in love with someone so much or suggests that it could be black magic. She explains that in the past, demons took the form of beautiful women to lure unsuspecting people and solely drain spiritual energy from them. She believes that the same thing is happening to Chono. Mo Stan Guo thinks that the problem is solved because his phone is broken. It's just an empty dream because Chen is now in the computer class and is texting with his beloved girl on the school Wi-Fi network. Everyone understands that he is hopeless and Lin suggests the easiest way to save Chen: tell the truth about his girlfriend. She thinks that an experienced hacker can hack the Wi-Fi system and break its spell, but Goose says that he has another way. He acts the computer and launches his digital spirit pet virus into it. Then he enters the email address girl and sends a virus to her computer, but she has an antivirus and the Goose virus is destroyed. Then we have another idea to use the art of seduction to save Chen. Senrong gives Sean a coal and as soon as he drinks it she uses her charms to hypnotize him. At her command, he is ready to end the video call and return home, but the fox girl does not allow him to do this. She uses all her charm and says that she would like to talk to Jengam longer and he cannot resist despite Senrong's control. Her mark on his head disappears and Senrong realizes that he lost in the seduction competition. The fox girl continues to absorb Chen's spiritual energy because she really wants to resurrect her master, but he is none other than an advisor. All Wang's friends are thinking about how to save Chen. His father comes. He says that in his youth he was also a big Lavela catfish, but his son has far surpassed him. He begins to cry, but hearing that Chen is still spending money and spiritual energy on the fox girl, he cannot contain his rage and breaks the monitor. Chen is upset that he has lost contact and does not obey his father's order to return home. Instead, he uses a high-level technique to get into cyberspace. He inserts the HDMI plug into his body and with a bright flash, his spirit is transferred to cyberspace. Ching comes out of the monitor in Fox Bao's room and starts looking for her. To his surprise, her room turns out to be a dark cave with a carved-out likeness of the room. Suddenly, he feels that someone is standing behind him and turns around to see a terrible monster. Chen backs away wondering who this monster is. When it suddenly takes the form of a fox girl, he realizes that he was deceived by an ugly demoness and tries to attack her, but it is useless because his spirit cannot harm the physical body of the monster. However, the demon is able to suck him out with the help of a good old vacuum cleaner. Qin holds on with his last strength when he suddenly sees Sun Ra on the monitor. The demon tells him that his friends will not be able to save him, but she is mistaken because a hand suddenly appears from the screen and throws it away before returning Chen's soul. It was Wang who himself entered cyberspace and successfully returned Chen to his body later that night. Wang watches the news about Zhu and his team who defeated the base of the ugly monster. They returned the spiritual energy they'd taken from the stupid Sims, but the main culprits of this fraud escaped to Wang anyway. But the next news attracts his attention. The flower roof company owned by the Sun Rong family was declared bankrupt and they can no longer pay their debts. Soon Wang and his friends decide to visit Sun Ron in her new home and discover that she has moved to the family estate, which is located in a magical mountain full of spiritual energy. They wonder how to find her when suddenly Sen Rong comes down to them through the branches of trees. As Tars and her family began to live like cavemen after mortgaging all their property to pay off their debts. Wang asks her how this happened and Sen Rong says that their company Flower Roof specialized Vasio in the production of magic pills due to the decrease in the average spiritual energy on Earth. The harvest of special crops for the production of pills decreased, thus the production suffered, and they were unable to pay off the debts. Despite this, Sen Ron's parents are optimistic that their time will come. If they work hard, they claim that their family got rich thanks to hard work, and if they continue to work hard, they will soon regain their former position. Her father rejoices in the bright future and everyone joins him. Meanwhile, the Tang family celebrates the fall of their eternal rivals, and they thank a certain dark man named Richmond who was responsible for the collapse of the Sun family. It was he who created problems for the Flower Roof company through skillful manipulation of the stock market. However, Richmond was not satisfied with this and wants to take away their Tang family estate from the Sun Rong family. Thanks him for everything he has done and asks why he is helping them. Richmond replies that he just needs spiritual energy and it is better if it comes from the Sen family. Returning to the mountain, Sen Rong's father tells the children stories about his past exploits. Avon and Sen Rong talk at the window. Sen Rong shows him a stream and says that before there was a waterfall that protected the cave, but now the waterfall is almost dry and the spiritual power of the mountain has become zero. Van says that he can help her, but Sen Rong refuses because of his pride. They return home and almost get hit by a car. They sit on train where they hear the news that the Tan family is going to buy out all the property of the Sanao family. Their children will get married. Everyone is shocked by this news and does not understand how this could happen so suddenly. Alan cannot get through to San Rong. Wang says that the limousine that passed them when they were leaving the mountain belongs to the Tan family and he decides to return to the mountain to help a friend. They arm themselves with swords and approach the mountain, ready for battle. Tan's henchmen are also there to stop them, and the red guy is their first-line defense. He tells Wang's group to get back, but Gu reminds him that he got what he deserved in the fencing tournament. The redhead taunts him, saying that it won't happen again, and Qin rushes at him. Redhead number 2 also approaches and Gu joins a fight. Gu and Qin attack but can't move due to Isha's spiritual web. However, Lin stays behind to help them and releases spiritual butterflies that destroy the web of her control. Guo and Chen continue to fight, and Lin pursues Yishu using them as bait. Wang runs to the mountain where the guests have gathered. Tan's father announces that today the enmity between the two families will finally end. They will buy back all the property of the Sen family and their children will also get married, uniting the two families. He calls Sen Ron and Tan to sign the marriage contract in blood. Tan signs it first and then hands it to Sen Rong, asking her to hurry out, but just as she is about to prick her finger, Wang grabs her hand and runs away with Tan. Immediately orders the guards to pursue them, but Wang and Sen Rong return to their friends to win their fights. But then Sen Rong's father calls her and she lets go of Wang's hand, saying that she is marrying Tan of her own free will. She explains that after he left yesterday, Tan's father came to them with an offer to save their company if his son Ron marries her. She categorically refused to marry this Dutchman, but her parents had other plans. They forced her to listen to the details of the agreement, claiming that salvation their company is a good deed. Sen Rong could not resist and realized that she had to become part of the Flower Veil group and go through this difficult path. Now Sen Rong apologizes to Wang Nu and other friends, saying that she is ready to sacrifice her life. They unfortunately go their separate ways and Wang cannot take his eyes off the talisman that Sen Rong gave him. They pass by a pond at the foot of the mountain and then Ven understands something. He rushes into the pond and pulls out the tentacles of the Ancient One. Demon parasite Lin knows about this and says that it is a star worm, which is famous for sucking the spiritual energy from the place where it lives. They understand that this parasite is sucking the spiritual energy of the magic mountain. Ivan tries to pull him to the ground, but they do not yet know that behind this is a man named Richmond who is actually a demon. Van's friends joined him and they finally pull the giant demon parasite out of the ground. Van orders him to return all the stolen spiritual energy and the demon begins to glow. Returning power on his orders, the parasite explodes, releasing a pillar of golden light that turns into a fountain. Song Rong was about to sign the marriage contract when this happened and she could not believe that the waterfall on their magical mountain was flowing in the opposite direction. Tan's father tries to convince her that nothing bad happened and says that they need to return to the ceremony. Suddenly his secretary runs in and reports that the shares of their company have fallen sharply and are close to zero immediately after this. San Rei's bodyguard enters the room and reports that the price of the shares again grows at a tremendous speed. While everyone is wondering what is happening, Ju appears on the scene with her special forces squad. He states that they have found evidence of the collaboration of the tank group with the demons who destroyed the Sun family, so all their assets are frozen and they themselves must be immediately detained by the Tank family and his friends in shock, and the family and friends of Sung Rong rejoice. The servants congratulate her on the revival of the family and she notices Wang in the window and smiles at him soon. After this, a talent competition is held, a national sword dancing show to evaluate the ability of growing cultivators to wield a sword with grace and grace. The judges at the tournament are Zhou, an instructor from Faction 59 named X, and two young idols known for their skills in ball dancing. The competition begins and the first participant is none other than Sung Rong. She introduces herself to the judges and immediately says that in last year's ball tournament, half of her swords and the sword spirit were destroyed. Sung Rong says that she knows about it and that's why she is here to improve her sword skills under the guidance of experienced judges. She then declares that she will show them a special move of the Sung family called Ocean Dance. Sung Rong controls dozens of swords at the same time and gracefully dances with them, unaware that the demon Richmond is hiding under the building and using a special device to disable her swords. The swords go crazy, some attack Sun Rong, and others rush to happiness. Ken was in the hall and saved her life thanks to his quick reaction. After that, Ru tells Sun Rong that she was trying to do something that she doesn't know how to do yet, and everyone starts laughing at her. Sun Rong sadly collects her swords and leaves the stage where Ling is waiting for her. Ivan, she says that without her sword spirit, she is useless, and Lin asks her to bring the swords to her stores so that she can tune them. Van also throws his coat on her and says that it is not her fault, and they sit down because of the incident. The popularity of the show has increased sharply and the next participants are Go Yi-chin, who will perform together. They dedicate their performance to Sun Rong, who has suffered a lot lately, but this does not stop her from smiling. Chen declares that now he will stop the Go strike with his bare hands blindfolded. They line up and just as Go is about to strike, a demon appears from underground again and causes him to lose control of his sword. Go strikes faster than planned, hitting Chinu in the head and depriving him of spiritual energy. Go uses his mind to say that their real performance was a demonstration of the Chinya technique before running away. The rating of the program grows suspiciously and the audience becomes more and more numerous. The next performer, Zeisha from Faction 59, and she uses her cybernetic modifications to control hundreds of swords. At the same time, they captivate the audience, while My Chins take their places next to Sun Rong and discover that Wang and Lin are missing. The presenter announces that the last participant in today's show will be Lin, and she comes out in a traditional outfit. Now that she has taken off her glasses, everyone is fascinated by her beauty. Lin begins the performance by releasing petals of spiritual energy from her sword, which cause grass to grow under her feet. But she does not stop there, and with the help of the energy of the sword, in a few seconds, grows an adult tree. The audience begins to applaud. But suddenly she sets the tree on fire with the following trick. She tries to put out the flames with a wave of her sword, but she fails. Ling gets upset, When the burning tree starts to fall, San Rong notices that she is in danger and rushes to her aid by forcefully summoning the sword spirit, which turns into a miniature version. With the help of the sword spirit, she uses her water control skills and quickly extinguishes the fire. Lin sees this as a chance to show an even more impressive performance and revives the dead tree and creates a fountain in the garden, completing the picture for the audience and judges, stunned by their performance, and the number of views breaks all records, while San Rong and Lin receive praise. Suddenly the demon Richmond, who has been deceiving them all this time, appears on stage. He admits that his plan was to collect enough spiritual energy to use his great skill, and that is why he put on this show. The demon uses his technique of absolute control, and from under the stage red spiritual energy begins to leak out. It affects the audience and then spreads throughout cyberspace and infects everyone who watches the program on their screens, and even those who did not look under the influence of his energy. Everyone falls under his control and becomes thoughtless puppets. Richmond laughs, saying that now he controls all people on Earth and is their real master. But he is shocked when he sees that San Rong and Lin are not under his spell. He does not understand how is this possible, and Wang explains to him that he fooled his plans. Wang moved the center of Richmond's spell 2 meters and it fell under the girls' feet, making them reel the mistresses of the spell. Suddenly everyone who was under his spell has a sign of San Rong above their heads. Richmond gets furious and decides to deal with them the old-fashioned way, in hand-to-hand combat. Suddenly, the host of the show stops him and releases all his spiritual energy, turning into Sylvester Zombie, and San Rong tries to break their control, but it is useless. Lin tells her that this is not just a control spell, with demonic energy deeply woven into it, so it can be very difficult to break. San Rong and Lin run away and hide from the zombies, armed with everything that comes to hand. They think that if they don't make noise and run away, they won't be caught, but some underscore takes pictures of them and posts them on the internet. The zombies find out where they are and attack them, but they somehow manage to escape. Jin tells Wang that if he uses his great trick of forgetting, he can break the control spell, but he refuses. Wang believes that people are the same way, are stupid enough, and their IQ will drop to negative values if he uses his great trick of oblivion. Then Vang climbs on his sword and takes the 2 girls to the roof of the building, thinking that they will be safe there. Lin says that they need to find a way to break the control spell, but the usual methods will not work. Suddenly something from behind falls to the ground, and when she turns around angrily, she sees zombies crawling around the building like ants. She is terrified. But the worst is yet to come. Vang points at Chen, who is also under the control spell. He gathers his spiritual energy and runs like lightning, instantly climbing to the roof of the building. He tells San Rong that he likes her, but she simply replies that she doesn't like him. Ken falls to the ground hearing these words and grabs his heart. As the control spell wears off, Lin believes that it is because he hit his head, but when Qin grabs his aching heart, San Rong realizes that she just needs to break people's hearts so that they will return to normal condition. She tries it on a crowd of zombies and shouts that she doesn't like any of them. The spell dissipates immediately and they return to normal. Now that they have found a way to break the control spell, Lin suggests that San Rong start a live broadcast to contact everyone at the same time, but there is no signal. Suddenly, they hear laughter from the nearby tower and see that it is Leah, who again escaped from prison thanks to the chaos caused by the absolute control spell. She declares that she will never allow San Rong to break the control spell using a live broadcast, but she is too far away to be her, and Wen's group only sees her muttering something like an idiot. Then they notice a meteorite flying towards her and try to warn her, but it is too late and she dies along with the tower and uses her spiritual energy to find out why the meteorite suddenly fell and discovers that it was Richmond who was aiming at them. Now San Rong is upset because she knows that there is no tower nearby for hundreds of miles and points to the sky, saying that they can turn for help to the International Space Station. Chen says that from there they can contact the whole world, but it is impossible to get there without permission, and shows him 2 tickets to the space station, which he won at a sword dancing competition, but simply stole them from the organizer. Then he puts his friends on a wooden sword and flies forward, but the sword cannot withstand such weight and they fall. Zombies rush at them and Qin gets up to stop them. Lin decides to join him and they ask for a van. Help San Rong save the world at any cost. They begin to fight the zombies, and Wang and San Rong get into the train, which sends them to the space station, and only their compartment flies into outer space, where Sun Rong realizes that she is left alone with Wango. He says that he wants to tell her something, and Sun Rong thinks that he will finally propose to her. But Won just wanted to say that they got on the train without checking the tickets. Sun Rong is disappointed, but there is time for that. No, because the train arrives at the International Space Station. As soon as they are at the station, Sun Rong starts broadcasting live and addresses everyone and tells his story about that she was always loved because she was the daughter of rich parents. When her family went broke, she realized that most people didn't care about her, so she took part in a dance competition to win the love of many people, and she succeeded, but not the way she wanted. Sun Rong admits that she realized that she doesn't need the love of the whole world, she needs the love of one special person. Everyone is upset when they hear this, and the spell is broken, and Wang Rong, he comes up to her and says that she gave up the whole world for him. Suddenly, they notice a huge meteorite flying towards the earth. Sun Rong is worried, but Wang tells her to calm down. He throws his sword at the meteorite, breaking it into thousands of harmless fragments that burn up in the Earth's atmosphere, leaving behind a magnificent meteor shower. Sun Rong rejoices at this, and then Won treats her to crispy noodles. She realizes that this is tantamount to him giving her a wedding ring and accepts it. The meteorite was not flying towards the Earth but was under the control of the demon Richmond a few moments ago, when Richmond was about to destroy the Earth. The demon advisor tried to stop him because the demon's goal was to conquer the Earth, but Richmond refused to listen to him because he realized that instead of targeting Sun Rong, he needed to destroy Won, who posed a real threat to them. The advisor was not sure about this, but the demon emperor ordered him to let Richmond do what he wants, and Richmond turned into a snake and flew towards the meteorite, but was destroyed by Ivan's attack. Seeing this, the demon emperor became enraged and ordered the advisor to prepare for war. On his orders, the advisor lit the dimension torches, which were a special artifact. Meanwhile, Won and Sun Rong were planning to enjoy their date on the International Space Station a little more, but when passing through the gate, they suddenly turned into three-dimensional CGI animations. Sun Rong panicked, not understanding what the fourth wall was, and then Won noticed that the Earth still looked the same. The demon army was preparing for war, and the advisor creates a giant portal to connect their world with the Earth. The demons invade the Earth and begin to sow havoc, chasing people and destroying buildings. The leadership for the protection of the Earth calls a meeting, and the zoo tells them that the Special Forces squad cannot fight the demons now because they are busy evacuating civilians. But he has an idea on how to defeat the demons once and for all. The zoo explains that above the school, in the 60th sector, there is a crack in time and space. There is a new testing machine that several months ago it malfunctioned during Wang's testing and constantly releases powerful lightning. He offers to set up the machine and destroy the demons with one blow. That the strongest cultivation practitioner in the world now is not the clown who is in second place, declares that he himself will control the machine and prove to everyone that he is as strong as number one. Ju and the Special Forces squad are trying to distract the demons while Number 2 prepares the car, but the task seems too difficult for them. Meanwhile, Won and Sun Rong are stuck in a three-dimensional loop from which there is no way out. Thank covers Sun Rong with a protective aura and then breaks through the wall of the space station, hoping to escape from his computer prison. He breaks through the wall but ends up in front of them, looking through the wall he just broke through. It's not just one Won and Sun Rong, but an endless repeating loop in which they are locked in a dimensional prison. Sun Rong asks how they can get out of this prison, and Vag replies that if his Jing sword was here, he would free them in an instant, but he is too strong and to rid away now. Jing returns from Jupiter sitting on his throne. The demon emperor laughs, seeing that the greatest threat to his army has been captured by the advisor. The advisor is happy with his master's praise and says that because some dimensional lamps were accidentally broken, his dimensional prison is not ideal, but still good enough to hold even Won on the space station. Sun Rong has lost hope of ever getting out of the dimensional prison, and is afraid that even if they ever get out, the world will already be destroyed by Won trying to come up with something, and finally him manages to hack the Matrix and change the animation style, turning themselves into three-dimensional characters of high resolution and high frame rate. They look at the ground and see that there is a giant cyclone raging in the sky above the school of faction number 60. Ru is cornered by a giant demon who demands that he surrender, But Master Number, to finish setting up the thunder mechanism, releases his spiritual energy to summon powerful clouds and turns into a huge Pikachu who releases powerful lightning that destroys the demons. A giant demon tries to stop him, but Roo and his team build a barrier around the Master and protect him until he defeats all the demons. When everyone thinks that they have defeated, the portal suddenly increases in size and a giant cylindrical stone falls out of it. It is the size of a giant cylindrical stone, but Master Number 2 is determined not to let him fall to the ground. He releases all his energy and grabs the stone, and despite the fact that he falls to his knees and holds him, the Demon Emperor is amused seeing how the man tries to resist and begins to laugh at him. Then he waves his hand and thousands of portals open all over the earth from which giant stones fly out. In fact, these are demon spaceships and demons come out of them. Seeing this from space, Senrong thinks that the earth is doomed, but Van tells her that there is still hope. He approaches the elevator and takes the mirror that lies inside Senrong, asks what he is going to do, and he answers that the spatial prison in which they are located is similar to a game, and he is going to overload the video card to destroy it. The best way to do this is to use mirrors. He places two mirrors opposite each other and stands between them. When Vin releases his spiritual energy and begins to glow, an infinite amount of reflection destroys the prison. He then asks the Saran to use the spirit of the sword to increase the load on the prison, and it does so. The dimensional prison begins to glitch and freeze, and the dimensional lamps in the demon realm suddenly start working at full power. They burn to hard and fast, and the advisor cannot control them. After a few moments, all the lamps suddenly explode, and the dimensional prison is around the International Space Station. Ven disappears and Senrong is back in their bodies. Ven asks her to stay here while he saves the world, but Senrong is worried that his identity will be revealed if he does this, but he doesn't care anymore and he rushes to the ground at supersonic speed. On the ground, the demons are causing panic and destruction, and even Ju has lost all hope. Suddenly, one of the demon ships explodes and falls to the ground, and Ju realizes that the hero is here to save the day. Ven is standing on the rubble emitting a golden aura. He is already ready to act when Lin appears next to him with beautiful butterfly wings. He is shocked to see her and she whispers something to him before teleporting him. She transfers him to a train that travels through the multiverse and tells him her story. Many years ago, when Lin was still a child, her father taught her the magic inherent in their race in their mystical unearthly homeland. Lin tried to collect her spiritual energy and use it as her father taught, but she did not succeed. She was the daughter of races and butterflies, but her wings had not yet grown. Lin was upset that perhaps she would never grow wings, but her father told her that she was just a late bloomer. He said that the wings of butterfly people have a special ability that allows them to move freely to any dimension, and therefore many alien races are trying to capture them. He wanted his daughter to also learn to use her powers because lately demons have been showing aggression towards them. That was all he had time to say. And suddenly a crack appeared in the sky from which they fell demonic ships. Lin's father knew what was happening, and in a last desperate attempt he created a portal and sent his daughter to another dimension, asking her to be careful. The portal closed when Lin cried, watching her father being attacked by demons, so she ended up on Earth and she was found by the spirit of the sword who raised her. Now Lin tells Wong that on that day the army of the Demon Emperor destroyed the Butterfly Clan. She claims that demons regularly invade other worlds and destroy those who are weaker than them and absorb their spiritual energy. He asks her why the Butterfly Clan did not resist, and Lin laughs at his stupid question. She replies that the demon race has become too powerful and the Demon Emperor has conquered thousands of worlds without leaving his throne. She claims that the Earth will suffer the same fate and tells Swan that he will understand how useless it is to resist the Demon Emperor when he meets him in person soon. Meanwhile, everyone on Earth is on the verge of losing hope when suddenly a notification appears about the direct broadcast on the International Space Station. Something is wrong with the staff. She tells everyone that although the chances of victory are small, they are all cultivators. She encourages everyone to use the spiritual energy that they had been accumulating for so long. Sun Ron touches everyone, and all the people on Earth rebel against the demons. The Demon Emperor also hears her speech and applauds her, calling her a worthy successor to the legendary hero. However, he orders his soldiers to destroy her first in order to suppress the hopes of all people. Suddenly Ling and their teleports to the Emperor's throne room. Demons and she bows before him, She says that she brought one at his request, and now he must keep his promise and free the sword spirit sister. The advisor uses his power to force her to kneel, saying that no weak creature deserves to stand before the demon emperor, but his plan doesn't work and he is furious when his trick doesn't work on Wing, who just brushes him off and throws him into the wall. The demon emperor laughs at this and stands up, saying that nothing could make his lazy ass rise from the throne. The last 10 years of Wan is too interesting to let go. When he approaches him, Lin trembles to fear and backs away. The demon emperor comes down the stairs and Wan asks him will the war end if he just kills him. The demon emperor rushes at him and delivers a powerful blow. Wan just blocks it with one hand, shocking him on the ground. The space station is under attack from all sides and Sun Rong sees no hope for victory. Suddenly the demon spaceships around them explode one by one. Two others. When Jin passes through them, he heads to Sun Rong and she remembers everything. When she hugs him, she asks if Wan is in danger and Jin replies that his master is not in danger. The danger comes from himself in the demon realm. Wan inflicts such a powerful blow on the demon emperor that he flies out of the castle. The demon emperor cannot believe that there is such a strong cultivator in the human world and wonders why he has never heard of him. Wan simply replies that he has always hidden his true powers. Otherwise the earth would destroy, but it's not his planet, so he's not going to hold back. The demon emperor runs away and Van chases him, but it was just the demon's plan to lure him, and he uses his incredible speed to attack Van and he crashes into the spaceship. He hits Van several times and then rushes at him and throws him aside several times. Van grabs the demon emperor by the fangs and you can't believe it. Then Van throws him away and sends him back to the castle, where Lin saves his spirit sister. Wang soon comes there and the demon emperor is now afraid of him. He asks how such a strong cultivator could end up on the weak planet Earth. Ivan simply replies that people are those who never give up in the face of tragedy, and even without him they will never submit to the demons. He is already about to finish off the demon emperor when suddenly the advisor attacks him from behind. He saw how Wang's father changed the amulet on his neck every week, deciding that this was the weak point he took it off by force. It was a mistake that he will regret for all the remaining seconds of his life, because Van's pent-up spiritual energy begins to come out when the amulet is removed. The lock shakes when he is enveloped in golden spiritual energy so powerful that it destroys the planet of demons with one release. The effect of the release of this power is to great and strong cracks appear in space. Van's radiance penetrates through the cracks and instantly destroys the demons flying in the skies of the earth. The demons turn into dust and disappear, and soon the sky becomes normal when the demon ships disappear.